This is welcome to our book camps. This is something new we're doing for this year. So we welcome everybody and hope you find it informative. Today, we are going to record the call just so everybody knows. I don't know if you got asked permission, but we are recording. If that's a problem, you're welcome to shut your cameras off. However, we love to see you guys. So please join as you can. We will, for the recording, we will get it edited a little bit after the call, and then we'll be sharing it with everybody who's either responded to the invitation or on the call itself. So I do ask before we get started if everyone can mute their line unless you're talking to us, and then we'll open your line to speak. And at the end of the our today's session, we'll open the floor up for any questions. In the meantime, if you want to put your questions in the chat line, we'll be monitoring them so that we can see how we're progressing and see if there's anything we have to address. I do have my team here. I am, for those who don't know me, I'm Judy at Hasmark, the CEO of Hasmark Publishing International. And on the phone today, or on the line with me, is Jen, Ashley, Michaela, and Mary Kate, who are all part of Hasmark. And joining us also is Marna, who I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to.
Thanks, Judy. I am Marna Meyer. I am an author coach. I'm a published author. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, which makes me a professional who studies efficiency and processes. And books are nothing but a process. I'm also a project manager, so I'm all about getting stuff done. I love working with Judy and her team. And I also love telling stories, campfire stories and ghost stories and professional stories too. And I can't wait to help you tell your story. So, who should be here today? Who's this for? Well, if you have an idea about a book, but you don't quite know what to do with that. Maybe your book was written and you don't know where to go from there. I was there. Maybe you always wanted to write a book, but don't have a sense at all of how to do that. Maybe you know a book is great for helping build your business or build your brand. I'll tell you, I get business cards all the time. Do I keep most of them? Nope. Somebody gives me a book. Do I keep that? You bet. I'm building more bookshelves as we speak because that's something that I keep. I'm not that unusual. People like to have books and to keep them, and they tend to keep them around. So that's a great way to build your brand and build your authority. And some people just have stories to share. Okay, who is this not for, though? If you aren't able to invest in yourself right now, this is probably not for you. And that's fine. We'll still be here. Come back. If you don't have at least 1 hour a day available right now, come back when you figured out how to work that out. Or you're not a happy camper. No whiners or whingers or complaining aloud. We are here to have fun, and we're going to do that. So which camp are you in? You have a great idea that you want to share. And maybe it's just an idea, or maybe it's an outline or a whole book or a story. Something happened in your life. You want to share the wonder and or caution people to stay out of that trap that you were in and got out of, or that you managed to avoid. If you have something like that, put it in the chat window. It could be something that's already written, or you have a book that might be useful for your business, or you need a brand. Who has some ideas? Let's see. Hi, Jamie. Anybody? Yes. Okay. You have at least 3, maybe 4. Awesome.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, in my experience, what happened with me, I didn't start out to write a book. I started out to write down some stories, and that became a book. And guess what? Next thing, I've got like 3 or 4 in the pipeline that are outlined and starting. So yes, they tend to multiply. Who else do we have?
They say that though, when you come up with an idea, you've written your first book, next thing you know, you will got another one and another one and another one.
Yep.
It's like this disease. It's like you just got to get going.
But it's the right kind of disease too,
It
right?
is like Michelle. Michelle's already written a book that we published, and now she's got ideas for other books, which I'm happy to see.
Oh, autobiographical, JB. I like that. And you're right. It will help your coaching brand, Michelle. Okay. Here, let's go on to the next slide. So one of the best ways to start is writing from an outline. So and if you don't have an outline yet, it's okay. It's pretty easy. Start with 10 or 12 ideas, put those down, play with the order until it's in a logical order of some kind. Works for the autobiographical ones. It can be either in time order, so in chronological order that something happened, or it can be the order that it just sort of makes sense to make the point that you want to make for writing this. I will tell you that I didn't do that with my first book. I started out writing stories, and they were just some stories that I wanted to remember. And I realized that once I got done, I realized that they could help some people. So I then moved them around and actually put them into a better order. I didn't use an outline. That would have been easier to do. And I'm pretty visually oriented. So I printed them all out, stapled the various chapters together, and put the leaf in my dining room table and worked big, because that worked for me. So there's all kinds of ways to do this. For the next book, it actually did start from an outline, because that's an easier way to move stuff around. So if you know that, that's certainly the easier way, but it's not necessary. You can back into the order too. Okay.
And writing from ghost stories, like, or ghost writers, this is a big one, and I get asked this one a lot. What does it mean to hire a ghost writer? It honestly, there's no tried and true rule to this one. If you feel you're not a good writer, or you can't get your message across, there are different ways of doing that. It's so you've got the idea, but you don't even know where to begin. Then yes, a ghostwriter is the one. A ghostwriter can be identified or not identified. It's up to you which way you want to go with your book. Peggy talks about it. For instance, anybody who's part of Peggy McCall's course, they know Peggy has talked about it, that some of her books are ghost written. The recent one she's writing herself, but she has no problem telling people who her ghostwriter is, that they're ghost written. It's because really with the ghostwriting, it's still your idea, it's your concept, it can be your outline, or you can work with the ghostwriter because they'll interview you, ask you questions about what your message is. It ultimately still is yours. So it's not, there's no perception you have to be concerned about. You can have a ghostwriter and help write with you or for you.
And one of the reasons that some people choose to use ghostwriters is that they don't feel like they have time to do that. And one way that you can actually get a little bit of extra time, either to work with a ghostwriter or to write your book, is to get up a half an hour early in the morning, or maybe write while you're having lunch, sandwich in one hand, keyboard in the other. Try not to get crumbs in the keyboard though. In the evening, I wrote my book while dinner cooked. The first one while dinner cooked. I would write. I'd know what I was going to write about. I put whatever on to do, and I'll tell you, pasta takes about 9 minutes to cook. That's a pretty good writing sprint while the noodles boil. Sometimes a couple hours on the weekend, sometimes take them along with you is a really good idea. If you're going on a road trip, or while you're exercising, sometimes that can work really well. don't necessarily write it or type it, but there's all these wonderful ways to record things, and Word, or even just on a voice recorder, you can get those transcribed, or there's, I mean, just Word now will allow you to do talk to text, and you can get an awful lot done. Randy Pausch, who wrote the last lecture, anybody remember Randy? He
Of course.
he had pancreatic cancer and was dying, and he gave this lecture, and it became hugely, enormously popular. He also he realized he wanted to leave a legacy for his children. That was the reason he did the lecture, but he realized he could expand some of that into his book. And honestly, he was on a pretty serious timeline because he knew the expiration date for him. So he had an exercise program, and while he rode his bike every day, he would talk into his phone. You know, he had the phone on the side pack and a mic and headset, and just recorded there. He worked with a ghostwriter. In his case, the ghostwriter is actually one of the authors for his book, because that's what he decided to do. Not necessary for you, but in some cases, some people like to do that. And then, so he was done, and he had a whole book that it didn't take him any extra time, because time was a very, very precious thing to him, as it is for everybody.
Another thing, Marna, too, is that there is the opportunity to do like an evaluation edit. I struggle with the word edit, but that's what it's called in the industry. Yes. Whereas in my case, I free wrote. So I didn't have an outline. I just knew what I wanted to write. So I sat there and I just wrote. Then I worked with someone in an evaluation type of role, and they interviewed me. They understood my entire story. Then they gave me suggestions on how I could rewrite it. So instead of a ghostwriter, you can go to someone like an evaluation editor, and they'll help you to get your book done. They'll give you the guidance, because I see here, even with, I think it's Michelle's question, that she was stuck on crafting an outline. So my thing is, don't ever feel stuck. Don't get stuck. Like, just get things out. And I love that Jamie said, you know, you could do index cards. So switch things around. That actually, I like that, because when I did it, I free wrote, and then I had to go back and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. And then I kept moving pieces in Word doc. So I copy and paste and move it around. So just another idea.
Definitely. And I'm a huge index cards fan too. But don't worry about getting stuck. We can help you with that. So there's all kinds of goals to write a book. When I was writing mine, I initially wrote it with the first one. I initially wrote it for me, and I just wanted to capture some stories. I realized that there were some things in there that could help other people. So that's what pushed me towards publishing it. It's the desire to help other people and to teach some folks. Those are kind of overlapping a little bit.
I think it's really important you have book goals too. I think as an author, having the goal of what you want to do is probably one of the key things to getting your book done, or why you're even writing it. I think it helps, gives you clarity.
Some people want to become an authorpreneur. So you can use your book to launch a business. If you're a coach, if you're whatever kind of coach that you're doing, or a speaker, it's a great way to add some authority, and also to have a different product, and to kind of launch your business. Some business owners use their books in the same way to help expand their business and build their business.
Yeah, they use it as a calling card, like you had mentioned earlier. Exactly. Yeah. Karen's asking, what's the difference? It makes me laugh, because John asked us that question this morning. What's the difference between help and teach?
They kind of overlap. Because I think in helping, you're teaching, but maybe valid.
But But if I was working on myself, I think it's more just the perception.
Mhm.
If I was working on myself, I want to know that I'm being helped. I don't, if you're teaching me, it's one of those paradigms, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to school to teach. But yet there's business books or technical books that do teach, and they don't necessarily, that's where I start to use the different help versus teach, So it's just one of those funny things. They're both pretty much the same thing, though. Just what you said, Marna, they overlap.
And you had a you had some bonuses that came out of writing your book, didn't you, Judy? To you.
For me,
Mhm.
just the it was so therapeutic for me to do it. I'll tell you, for me, myself, writing about my personal journey was just the greatest lethargic, therapeutic thing I could have ever done, because I got to tell my story over and over and over again without saying it to the same family and friends over and over and over again. So it was by far the best thing I did for myself to heal myself and to give me strength. Absolutely.
All kinds of bonuses come from writing your book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Personal bonuses. I mean, bonuses for other people too, but as an author, you grow and change and get to experience some things. It's a really neat process, as those of you that have written books already know. So, can it be little? Well, yeah, as it turned out, it can. Right now, the trendy thing on Amazon is short, and also many things. So we've all been binge watching series on Netflix and things by different, even if they're not in a series, things by with the same actress or by the same director, right? That's showing up in Amazon as well. So people are binge reading. I just love that word. Not mine. I didn't make it up. I heard it and was like, yeah, that's what I've been doing all my life, was binge reading. All started back with Nancy Drew. But they can be very short in length. For an ebook on Amazon, it can be 1 page long, and that's all. They have various short categories, and short stories. Everybody had heard of short stories, and novellas are slightly longer, and novelettes are kind of in between those two. Full-length books are really good too. The past year, Amazon book sales grew 9% over the previous year. So that's a lot that they grew. So you can share experiences. They can be for entertainment. You want to tell stories, you get warm fuzzies or a good chill with a scary story. They make people laugh. Stories have all kinds of wonderful things that they do for your readers. Novellas are they're really short. They're about 17,500 words, so not very long. For example, if you've read Edgar Allan Poe's Fall of the House of Usher, it's teeny for a book, or The Little Prince, one of my faves. A novelette is even shorter than that. So Breakfast at Tiffany's, the book, not the movie. A Christmas Carol, those are all novelettes. They're very short. Short stories, so or even shorter. They can just be a few pages long, and you can either have just the short stories, or you can connect those into a whole book, either on Kindle or else an actual physical book. The so some of these, I mean, look, you can have a pardon me, you can have a 15-minute read on Amazon. That's like 1 to 11 pages. If it's a Kindle, they can be that short. If it's an actual physical book, they need to be a little longer. That's 24 pages, right, Judy?
24 and up. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will tell you, that writing a whole book seemed overwhelming to me until I actually started writing. And one good way to do that is to sort of write collaboratively as a group. I host write-alongs. They're free. You just come and we all write. There's some sprints, and which are about 12 minutes long. And there's some intensives that are about 30 minutes long with some breaks in between. And we mix it up and we have a good time. And we all get words written. So that's one thing that you can do as a way to help. It helps with motivation, and also writing is kind of a solitary sport. So it's nice to have other people do it. For me, at least, it's nice to have other people doing it. So if anybody wants to come to my next write along, we'll tell you how at the end of this, but they're fun. Okay, let's see. Question, editing. So why do you want to edit? Well, you want to tell your story well, right? You want to be able to make your point, and you want to look smart. That's the main reason. So you can edit yourself. I'm a professional. I've actually not a professional editor. I'm a professional writer. I have written lots of things for various companies and other things before. Do I use an editor? You betcha. They're going to make me look better than I am. There's all kinds of ways to do this. You can do it yourself, which is fine, except if you're like me, you're going to not see the word that you skipped, even though you've read it 10,012 times. Somebody else reading it, you can, share it with some friends, and they may be able to catch those things that you didn't catch, but maybe not. So there are people that are actually trained in how to do this. They also have kind of the right kind of brain and mindset, and that helps. So you can find an editor. You can find professional editors on Fiverr. You can, there's some other places out there, and they vary in price, and they vary in skill, and anybody can say that they're going to be an editor. My 10-year-old nephew could put out his shingle on Fiverr and say that he edits. So you want to be careful to pick the right one. I selected Hasmark because they have some really, really, really awesome editors on staff. How do you hire an editor, Judy?
I'll talk about that in a sec, but I want to go back to edit yourself, because, and we say that in the slide, why is this bad? It's go ahead, edit yourself, go ahead and ask the friend, the family, the mom, the sister, the brother, but please hire an editor also. In fact, we don't just hire an editor. We're going to talk about it in a second. We also do proofreading. So for Hasmark, it's probably one of the most extensive hiring processes we go through. And Jamie actually recently joined the group of editors at Hasmark, which I'm happy to have her join us. But we had seen the work she had done from somebody else's work, from another book she had brought to us, and the extensive amount of work that went on about it. So Jamie, we had again worked with her. What happens is we'll go and we'll ask for editors to come on board. We create a test. We've had a test created. We have an editor who has been phenomenally with us and done incredible work with us for years. She reviews the test. She is tough to get through her. I'm going to tell you, when we advertise for an editor, we probably get a good, as we are doing right now,
during the manifestation.
Okay. We probably get a good 50 or 60 editors that will apply. We always get a very good response for editors. So there's tons of them. I want to talk about Fiverr in a second. However, we then go through the resume. Whoever we think is going to be a good fit, we'll then send them the test. They're required to do the test. Out of the 20 or so that will actually physically do the test, maybe 3 make it through. Maybe. It is tough. I've even seen it go through that we haven't hired anybody from 20 people. So as many as there's thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of editors in the world. Everybody will tell you they're an editor. Everybody is not an editor. I have one book that came to us and she said she did a phenomenal job. She challenged us to find mistakes. We found 100 mistakes in her manuscript. We were told it was perfect. So I can't reiterate enough that this is by far the most important aspect of getting your book done. My challenge is when someone says go to Fiverr, and I hear it all the time. Fiverr is good on a financial budgeting type of thing, but be careful. Watch reviews, get them to do samples of their work, check them out before you hire them. I would prefer to do Fiverr based on a referral. I have done a few Fiverr things that, as has Mark, that have worked out very well, but I've also had lots that didn't work out. So just be cautious of that one. So I'm not blowing my own horn because you can find a good editor. We found Jamie, she was out there. So, you know, there's lots more.
But be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. And do not skip it. I don't care what anyone says. Do not skip getting a unbiased editor. I don't want your family.
Well, and the other thing is there's depending on what your family is like, some families aren't very supportive with doing things like this. So you may want to be a little bit careful who you show your baby book to as well. So proofing. There are, for every 100 characters typed, there's about, on average, 4. Really, it's about 400 out of every 10,000. I just made the math smaller. But so these are people that are, this is not on average, this is people that are good at this. So transposing letters, all of that kind of stuff. Do you have your commas in the proper places? Is your spacing proper? That's the one that gets me. I will tell you, in the middle of a sentence, I will, for some random reason, put an extra space in. Probably I paused and hit the space bar and forgot and hit the space bar again or something, but that's my issue. And there's ways to help look for that, but also skipping a word. Word processing has built in dictionary type, to make sure you're spelling things properly. Software, Grammarly is awesome to help with grammar sorts of things. There are multiple different pieces of software. Please use those. In addition, have other people proof it and hire a professional for this one, right?
Absolutely. Do not skip this one.
One of the things that any spell checker in the world will not catch is if you have a word in there that's a proper word, but is not the word you meant. Know anybody that happened to, Judy?
Yeah, I can pull my book off the shelf right now. It's in one of the endorsements at the beginning of the book. It should have said, I think it should say maintain, and it says mountain. 4 editors I had on my book. I spent thousands. And guess what? That book's sitting on the shelf right now with that. No. So software won't catch that.
Pick somebody professional to help you with this. And I will tell you that Judy and her team are awesome.
I like it because Jamie even wrote in the window here in the chat window, I never use software. I agree.
Yes.
You can use it as the starting point. Like if I was writing my book, I would do Grammarly. I would put because it will catch some things, but you also need to read. And just what you said, Marna, I don't believe there's a book on the shelf right now that doesn't have an error on it. I was just talking to an author a few minutes ago, and that's exactly what Weir said. He said he was surprised how many errors were in his book that was published. So definitely do yourself a service and go get editing and proofreading for sure. And not by a
So-
family member.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Anybody. So when you go to a bookstore or to Amazon, how do you pick a book? You usually have some topic that you're looking for, but where in there has what you really want? Well, you look at the cover and the title. Those two things are both really critical to selling books. So you want to have a cover that's attractive, both on Amazon and on a physical bookshelf. So whatever that is, it should jump out of the space. You should be able to read the font that's on there, because if it's teeny tiny, nobody's going to see it on that picture. And that's what's going to compel and engage people to come and actually open your book and be blessed by all of the things that you put into that book. Okay. So just get started writing. I have some things in my coaching program I call fire starters, because we're at BookKamp, right? You got to start the campfire. And those are just things to help start if you're totally stuck on a topic, things to help inspire you and start. There's ways to help if you're stuck, getting unstuck. If you have an idea and you're writing and you just get in your own way, we all do that. I'm my hardest critic. So there are some techniques to help break that awful writer's block. The buddy system. I have into my coaching program some built-in accountability. So you are accountable and it makes you want to get stuff done. So I also do ride-alongs, which aren't exactly accountability, but you're working together. And I'll tell you, every ride-along that I've been to or done has caused people to produce way more words than they ever thought. The first time I wound up that I was ever at one, I wrote probably twice as many words as I thought I even could in an hour or in 2 hours. So it's possible. It's kind of a neat process. So first off, set a date when you want to get this done. Just start and decide what the book does. So what do you want the purpose of your book to be? And decide that it's finished. So I have a friend who writes fiction, and he writes fabulous fiction, but his work he never decides that his book's done. He keeps going back and revising and changing, and each of the stories, because he changes the whole story, each of them are fabulous, but he never decides he's finished. So please decide that you're finished. So get started. Come with me for my ride along that's coming up February 12th, and get some stuff written. Judy, have you had a good time here today? I sure have.
Yeah, of course, of course. I think here with getting, I think the biggest thing for any author is I hear quite often that they're stuck, and I see that you said here getting unstuck, and you're right. Things like your quick starters or your the writing spurts. Again, my big thing was I actually just did free writing. And the other part of it was I also realized as when I had decided to write a book, it was like, I don't have enough to say. I can't write a book that's, 30,000 words, for example. So instead, I think I wrote 6,000 words. And then I did a collaborative book, which also worked out really well for me. It also, what I liked is when you're talking here about accountability or a buddy system, when I did the collaborative book, it worked out well for accountability because now I'm organizing as with co-authors. So then I want to be accountable to them to say, okay, fine. If I'm going to set deadlines for you, I'm then going to follow the deadline myself. I have to lead
Yep.
by example.
Yep.
So I think finding an accountability person is a phenomenal idea. And with this group, maybe, you guys could chat. You could also opt, if somebody is looking for an accountability writing partner, go ahead and sign up here. If you want to do the writing sprints with Marna, you'll be able to sign up here too for that. Again, I think setting dates by far is probably the most important thing you need to do, is set a date for your writing and completion of it. And the other thing I get told a lot is I've been writing and editing or proofreading, and I haven't finished. And it's like, at some point, just stop.
Yep.
Because all you're going to do is just go around in circles. You're just going to, and then you're going to be your own worst critic. So therefore, you're going to be rewriting what might have already been good.
Mhm.
Go find somebody who can give. And again, unbiased is good. So the sister, the relative, the friend, they're all good, but unbiased is even better. You need somebody who's going to be, sometimes there is a sister or friend, or I know I have one that she would be critical. She has no problem telling the truth. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. So that's what you want though for your book is don't be afraid to share it. I would say that would be the other thing too. As you write, and if you're wondering, I know for Peggy, she's writing her sequel to Savvy Wisdom. And she was telling me, she would be texting me as she was writing it and saying, I'm at chapter 3. So she was sharing on social media, even to hold herself accountable to people who were listening or who were watching. And then she had people reading it as she was writing the next chapter.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. If you're organized enough, that would probably cause me chaos. So again, here's all about what someone wants to do, right? It's what works for you. That to me causes me chaos, so I'm not willing to do it. But for Peggy, that worked out well because it motivated her to keep on going forward. So I think that was, it's all about what works. I'm just taking a quick look on maybe that's a perfect slide. So I think the
Yep.
Q&A is probably where we should go next.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, so I know that in the chat window, we are asking there'll be an email, just so everyone knows at the end of the call, in the next day or two, everybody will receive the recording, and you will get an email for the sign up, and we'll be putting it in a window here. So
Yep.
It'll all be here, but let's go to your questions. Mary Kate, there was a couple online. Do you want to share
Yes.
those with us, and maybe Marna can help answer them? So we ensure we
Absolutely.
got that. And then if anyone wants to raise their hand, or in fact, what we could do, Jen, is take off the presentation for now and let everybody be
Yeah.
seen. We'll answer questions, and then we'll bring you back to the last couple of slides. So if anyone wants to put up their hand while Mary Kate's reading questions, that would be wonderful.
So they are not labeled, they are anonymous. So I'll just read the few
Okay.
that there are. I'll start with this one. So do we always begin with a table of contents as a structure to write within? And is there an expected framework for self-help books?
Not necessarily. You don't have to start with an outline or a table of contents. Some people that's an easier process to work through. If you're starting, the next thing that you're going to write about is this. For others, and I'm in this other camp, that was harder to do. I felt much more free when I had ideas of what I wanted to write, and ultimately I wound up with filling in holes that I wouldn't have had to do, at the end, as opposed to at the beginning, where if I had a whole list of things that I was working through. So both ways work. And I think different people's brains are engaged differently too. So some work better for one group and some work better for the other.
I tend to agree, Marna, because I tend to be the same way. I just decided, I just for even putting the collaborative book together.
Yep.
I had done my story and I knew what I wanted, but I changed as I evolved too.
Yeah. Mhm.
So even though I had the framework for what kind of stories I wanted, as I evolved, as I met other people, as I started reading it, I made adjustments to it. So it is personal choice. I just don't think you should stay. It should never be something that holds you up.
That's great. And then the last question from the sheet is, what is better when telling a love story about two soulmates, from the main character or from the author?
I think was this a question from anybody that was here?
I think, was it Michelle that wrote that?
Nope, it wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can find out. I'm wondering whether Jamie can help with that one though. What do you think, Jamie?
Okay, my question is, can you clarify that?
That's where I
Question about main character or author. So who are the characters? Is it
Let's
the
see if we can
person,
find
is the
question.
person willing to?
there. I don't think they're here, Jane. So
Yeah, they're not labeled,
can you
unfortunately.
Okay, can you reread the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So it says, what is better when telling a love story about two soulmates, by the main character or by the author?
I'm wondering if they mean
I'm thinking perspective,
first,
maybe?
first
That-
person or
yes.
third person. I'm wondering if they mean should you tell it in the first person or in the third person? But I guess it would just give a different effect.
Yeah.
And actually, what I would do if I were in their place is I would start it off both one way and then another way, just to get the feel of it and kind of immerse myself in the feel of writing it in the first person, such as it was 1996 and I was working in this office. I noticed a handsome fellow, whatever. And then, so that would be like in the first person. And then, third person, just she was a young woman in her 30s, whatever. And just see what you like the effect of better and see what you connect with your heart more.
Yeah.
I would try both ways for a little bit of it and then just decide till I could decide and just instinctively what I think I should go with. There's
I
no
think that-
right or wrong.
I was just about to say that, Jamie. I was going to say there is no right or wrong. The only thing I would say the right or wrong is skipping between, or not skipping
Right.
between,
You have to be
is
consistent.
ping pong.
consistent. Yes, that's the wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Unless you add a line at the end and say, I must confess that young woman was me. As a
Yeah.
surprise ending or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. It looks
Well,
like
thank
there's.
you.
Yes, thank you, Jamie.
Karen's got a question here, Marna. I'm going to ask you, or ask somebody, even one of my members on the team that's here. What's the average planning sequence for a book after it's written? So let's answer. I'll answer that one if that's okay, Marna.
Sure.
Planning sequence for a book after it's written. So that means from the editing, proofreading, cover design, layout, publication. I would say the average planning sequence, 2 to 3 months. Is there a timeline to follow as a guideline that we could share? I know we do have one. I definitely we can pull that out and share that after the call. We'll email it to everybody on the call. Absolutely. I'm intending the completion of by February. I'd like it in print in my hand by May, February, March, April, May. The 1st of May, you're also saying, Karen. It's a little bit compressed for sure. The timing is, what happens, what I find, and I'm sure Michaela and Ashley can attest to this one, is the back and forth that goes on. One of the things that we do, for example, at Hasmark, is that with the editor, the proofreader, cover designer, you're going to be working with them. You've got to approve them and review it. That is usually what holds us up, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm.
Getting your book done. We've done Peggy's book in a week. Trust me, that's all we do. We breathe, eat, and sleep it, but I don't want to do that. So it's the back and forth of within the process that takes the time. And if you're doing part of it, then it would be, working it out with us. So it's possible. I definitely know, being, again, Peggy's sister. Yes, the answer is yes. Could you do it? Hand it in by the end of February, have it back in your hands by the beginning of May? Yes. She handed us a book in 1 week and we had it in her hand a week later. So beauty of print on demand is how fast your book gets back to you.
Karen, what's the goal for your book? Is there a reason for the beginning of May?
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to be traveling and I'm going to be doing some speaking, and it's an opportunity for me to actually get it into people's hands and get a little bit of, I guess, attention, so that it can drive some future teaching and workshops and that kind of thing.
So to Judy's point, if you're diligent and responsive and, get back quickly. So the editing, it's not a one thing. It's not like they hand you edits and it's done. You go through and approve or reject the edits, and then it goes back. And so there's iterative processes for those. Same with the proofing, same with the cover design. The cover design happens while you're doing that.
Yeah.
So if you are on top of this, and don't get distracted, then it's possible, but it's more incumbent upon you. But that's so, and if you can get it written sooner, you can gather some time that way. I love that that's the purpose for your book, and that's what you're going to do with it. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
In addition to that, one of the things that everybody ought to know is, okay, it's up there on Amazon. Is there anything else you need to do about that? People are just going to gravitate to it. They need to know it's up there. So you need to continue, you need to market your book, kind of while this process is going on some. And then once it's launched, you need to continue to market your book. And even after that, so 6 months after launch or a year after launch, continuing to market it so people know about your book and can actually get to it. Because it can be the absolute most fantastic book ever. And if nobody sees it, it's not going to help them.
Right? To be honest, though, you just pointed out the two things that I fell flat on with my first book. So I really appreciate that. And I just feel I wrote my first book when I was still working full time, and I just really couldn't give it the kind of attention that I realize now it needed. And now I'm retired, and I feel like I can really pour myself into this process. So I'm quite excited.
And the nice thing is, with first books, you're letting everybody know who you are. With subsequent books, you can remind them of what's out there as well as the new stuff. So remarket is an awesome opportunity.
Oh, great. Well, thanks to both of you.
So, can't wait to read it. Okay. Other questions? I haven't been looking at chat, frankly, so.
Okay, we answered Karen's.
Christine Lee had a question about making it a bestseller. I'm going to defer to Judy for that one.
And I have no doubt, Christine, your book is going to do phenomenally well. You continue to tell everybody in the world that your book's coming out and that you've got one releasing, which is fantastic. Good for you. And I know we're only talking tomorrow or Thursday. Tomorrow's your release of your book. Yeah, which is phenomenal. And at this point, it's I can never say this enough to an author. Everything is energy. I remember one of the girls, and sorry, I don't remember whether it was Ashley or Michaela last week, that met one of the authors, and she's like, oh my God, the energy that came through a call. I think it was Ashley that you sent the message to me. It was, and I'm thinking, oh, if only everybody understood that. You don't even, the energy that comes through just a message, like a post or sending a newsletter. I used to, at the beginning, Jennifer would remember this. We would get an author that would write us in the morning and say, I don't feel good about my book. And I would be like, no, you didn't just say that, please. Wake up in the morning and celebrate it. And trust me, I've even seen, again, I'm going to talk about Peggy, but she had a live book launch, and her online book launch did phenomenally well. It was because of the energy that was created that day. Christine, your energy is incredible. You have a great audience. You do a fantastic job talking about your book all the time. I saw that you have bonuses ready to go. Just continue. Shout it from the rooftop. Tell everyone and anyone that buy your book tomorrow and buy a copy for a friend, because it's an exceptional book. It's a great book for children. It's a great book for adults. And one of the other things couple things that you can also do is ask people when they get the book to share a picture with your book, because that's a lot of fun, keeps the momentum going. Write a review. Ask them to write a review. Don't think it just ends tomorrow. It doesn't. It's the beginning tomorrow. So,
Wow, awesome. Thank you
yeah,
so
just
much.
keep it going. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're incredible at it.
Oh,
We'll have an eye on you tomorrow too. So I'm looking forward to buying my copy.
And don't forget to bill me. I know there's some payment I need to make you, but you didn't send the bill. So I go, what's going on here?
It's all good. I know you're good. I know you're good. Don't
I gotta
worry.
make it happen for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, Christine. And congratulations, because I know tomorrow will be incredibly successful for you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Is there more questions, folks?
Yeah, there's a hand up.
Okay, awesome. Maybe you want to open your line and ask to unmute. That's what I'm about to do. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. My book is almost done. I'm super excited.
Yay. How exciting is that?
The fairy tale endings, dreams really do come true.
Awesome. Fantastic. Happy to hear that.
I got to talk to one of the girls and she was so awesome. Your team, part of your team, the process, and literally like she didn't even have to help me follow through with more things because I'm not techie. But she stayed on that phone with me. She's like, look, you have to download this, you have to download Adobe. And she like literally spent the extra time with me. Thankful, and like what a great team. You know, she was a blessing. I want to say
Michaela or Michaela's on the call.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was you.
Hi, Karen. I mean, sorry, Kim. Yeah.
She was the one that helped me so much. I was so grateful for her. And, you know, I thank you. Thank you so much for that. It meant a lot to me. But I want to know and ask you guys, what's the next step? If I invested for the next stage of the book, like once it's finished for the marketing part, what happens then? You know, because I'm a full-time salon owner, which I'm trying in the next years to hand over to my daughter, but I still have to teach her, train her, coach her.
Yeah, lots of work to do, as I know. So it's Christine knows, and so does so many others with us who have done the marketing with us, is basically the marketing team would kick in, which is partially Mary Kate and Jen. There's some other folks that would be in that as well. But most importantly is they get your book ready, they choose a date, they plan on the pre-releases and how to take pre-orders, what kind of bonus gifts you should have, creating a book trailer, making sure that your brand as an author is clear. I know you as a salon owner has done an incredible job. You're incredibly successful, so I have no doubt that you can release your book successfully too. And then, of course, then preparing for the bestseller release. But the girls will do, there's a press kit, they'll help you through. They get on a call with you. There's 10 calls that are all planned ahead with you. And then they go through the whole process of getting your book marketed and ready for bestseller.
Launch. Okay, so that's what I want to ask. So basically, do you have to have a website for it? Do you have to have like all those things in place?
Well, part of it'll be whether you want to do a sales page for your book, just an individual page that's nice and long, or whether you want to do a website. So they can talk to you about that. Jen and Mary Kate can always set up a call with you and go through more detail with you. So we'll do that. We'll send you an email afterwards and they'll talk about the process. How's that,
Okay.
Kim?
And what's the process for me now? Like I just had Michaela, and then I'm gonna do like the third editing. So is it like almost there? Like I get
Primarily the majority of the work is done. They still have to do the proofreading of your book. The cover's done, correct?
Yes.
I'm looking for the ladies to shake their heads up and down.
Yeah, we're in the layout stage now for
good.
Almost
good.
done.
You're in layout, so that's fantastic. It is just to what Michaela said. You're almost done. You're at the finish line, getting close to the finish line.
I'm ready.
So marketing should start now because you don't want to really release until like your release should align with your marketing. So I would set up a call with the girls right away.
Okay.
And then Michaela could probably join just for a few minutes, just to make sure that timing is in alignment.
And then, so that would be me buying the second part of the investment, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay. That's
yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Marna.
Anybody else? I think I've at least glanced through the chat and I think we've hit all of the questions. Anybody have any additional questions or did we miss one? Okay. Going. I think
it looks like Jamie has her hand up.
Oh, Jamie, sorry. Yes.
I was looking for the icon. Sorry.
And I was looking at the icon and missed the actual hand. Yes.
Yeah, I had put in the chat that regarding the previous question about the love story, and they were asking about the author. Maybe if it's a self-help book and how you can find your soulmate, the person might want to relate their own experience. And then Michelle brought up an interesting angle of giving the story from the point of view of each of the two people, the man and the woman or whatever. Yes.
Yeah. And I also think it depends on if it's autobiographical, then it ought to be in the first person, I. And there are a lot of compelling books that are written from the first person without an external narrator. But there's also a lot that have an outside narrator in there. So
there are a number of ways it can be done. Fictional in the third person, fictional in the first person, autobiographical in the first person, and fictional or true from each person's perspective. So I could see 4 different ways of approaching it.
Yep. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Jamie.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So going forward, if you want to come on Marna's ride along, you are welcome to. You can it's going to be February 12th. Almost went to August 12th. That's way too far away.
Yeah.
February 12th. It's a Saturday. It's going to be noon Central, which makes it 11 Eastern, 10 Pacific. So for at least those people in my chunk of the world, it ought to be reasonable. And it's on a Saturday. There's also going to be the next book camp that will be out here. Let's see.
Jen, flip to the slide 14, please. It said the subject and the date. Okay, so our next
yes.
one, next
you.
book camp is
setting your author goals. And so as an author, you have goals, like with most of life. So what do you want your book to do? When do you want to get it written? We heard some really awesome timing and reasons for that timing in this call. So that's really good. And so we are going to email everybody that signed up for this some help for that, just because we enjoyed having you guys here. So, and we will also in that email include the how to sign up for either the next book camp or the ride along with me. Okay, I have had a blast today, guys. Thank you.
been a great call today, and I look forward to the next book camp call. So again, we'll send out the recording. We'll send out the invite for the next book camp. And then, of course, we'll get a message out to everybody right away for the ride along, which I think is going to be phenomenal. So thank you, everyone, for being here today, for joining us. And at any time, always send questions. We're more than happy to answer any of them. So we look forward to seeing you get your book done.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, Marna.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.